To avoid renting an expensive cinema camera, I figured I could buy an old camera on eBay. But little did I know I was about to get the most frustrating camera in the world. So I reckon this would be the ideal camera for my upcoming documentary shoot. A Canon C70. It's a cinema camera, but I can rent it for $150 a day. Whereas this is the camera I've just bought on eBay secondhand. The question is, can I figure out how to make this 10-year-old camera worthy of a professional shoot? Now, I did also pick up the tiniest zoom lens I could find on eBay. It doesn't even have a focus ring, but it does have image stabilization, which I reckon will be important for a truly pocket-sized camera. At first glance, the footage looks great, but there are a few major problems. First of all, this camera is so old that my SD cards don't work with it. There are only a few kinds you can buy today that it will recognize. I got this 512 gig card which allows me to shoot 1080p raw video for 1500 minutes. But that feels like a cruel joke because when I went out to test the camera, I only got 12 minutes of footage before the battery ran out. That explains why the guy on eBay included enough batteries to comfortably hide my DVD copy of The Simpsons movie. But fortunately, changing batteries is a totally effortless process. So you don't have to be a genius to realize that this camera works much better with a cage, an external battery, and maybe a top handle. I've turned it into a jacket pocket cinema camera, and now I can leave that battery inside and use my inexpensive NPF batteries to power the camera. The next thing I've got to rant about is the screen, and I'll keep it brief this time. My trusty Canon T3i had a lovely articulating screen, and this doesn't. Some of my shots were out of focus, and it was difficult to keep the horizon level because I couldn't really see what I was doing. So I've accepted that this camera won't fit into even the largest of pockets. I'm going to attach an external viewfinder. It's so much easier to pull focus now, and the shots are more stable because I can push the eyepiece against my face. For a more budget-friendly option, I could use a loop like this, but I like holding the camera lower so my arms are tucked in, plus I already had this EVF so I might as well use it. Now I have a bunch of EF lenses, so I found a Metabone speed booster on eBay so I can use my lenses on the Blackmagic cinema camera. Now I can shoot with this full-frame image-stabilized 24-70 f4, which I got secondhand on eBay a couple of years ago. Thanks to the magic of the speed booster, this lens now has an effective aperture of f2.4, and the field of view is similar to that of a Super 35 sensor. My Samyang 24mm also works nicely. It's brilliant for low-light shooting, but you can see from this footage that my hands aren't really steady enough to shoot handheld without a gimbal or a shoulder rig. But if I am shooting on a tripod, I can use the 24 or my other lenses that don't have image stabilization, like my Pentax 50mm 1.4 or my vintage Zeiss telephoto lens. It's a good job that this camera shoots video in RAW, because changing the white balance or the ISO in camera takes way too long. Instead, I tend to leave the camera settings alone and adjust my exposure with the aperture or a variable ND filter. Now, I already had this stuff, but buying the camera, speed booster, and the little lens cost me so much money that I could have rented the Canon C70 for a whole week. So if I can't get this camera working well enough to use on at least 7 days of my shoots, then I'll wish that I'd rented the Canon instead. So we've solved most of the annoying handling issues with this camera, but what about the sound and image quality? Today's shoot is for a documentary, so the audio quality is a priority. The A camera will be connected to a lavalier mic, but I'm going to use my little camera as a B camera, so it needs a better microphone. Next up is low light. Now this sensor is 10 years old and small, so shooting in the dark can be tough. My smallest lens only opens to f3.5, so filming at night gets very dark and grainy. But if I switch to the speed booster, I can get decent looking footage with my zoom lens at f2.4 and a nearly noise-free image with my faster prime lenses. Now the image out of this camera is excellent, by the way. Without any fancy color grading, the footage looks really close to what I see with my eyes. For comparison, here's footage that I shot with a truly pocket-sized camera, my phone. So the last thing that's bothering me about this camera is the moire. These bricks tend to have strange artifacts. Basically any fine grid pattern like this, or even the stones on the beach, can cause moire issues with this camera. Apparently you can get an expensive filter that's supposed to stop this, but I've been fairly pleased with the results after fixing it in post. I'll do a separate video about how I color grade the footage, so stay tuned for that. But the biggest question is, have I given up and rented the C70 for this shoot? No, I'm going to give this little guy a chance. After adding the accessories, it's hardly annoying me at all, and I'm happy with the image quality. But none of that matters if it can't serve me for a real professional shoot. So let's get on a train and go film. Hopefully this camera won't let me down. To cut a long story short, it didn't. I have no complaints after using it all day. It's really nice to have such a powerful camera that fits in a small bag with space for my laptop. So this is basically like a puppy. It's a bit of a rascal, but for some reason I don't mind making accommodations to keep it happy. So I guess it'll be with me for the years to come. My name's Simon Cade, this has been DSLRguide, and I'll see you next time. Before I go, I just wanted to say that I partnered with audio.com for this video. All of the lovely background music that you've been hearing came from their library of more than 6,000 tracks. When I'm browsing for music on their site, I can filter by genre, but even more useful is being able to exclude certain genres or moods. It didn't take me very long to build out a custom playlist for tracks that I'm planning to use in these videos, and another playlist for my projects outside of YouTube. I can do the same with sound effects, so I can quickly access them to use in my next project. I have the Audio Pro plan, which covers any commercial usage, so filmmakers and content creators can use the music and sound effects for any digital projects. And right now they have a discount for annual access to Audio Pro. It's 70% off if you use the code SIMON70 at checkout. So even if you cancel after the first year, you'll still be able to use the assets you downloaded forever. So don't forget to enter the code SIMON70, which brings the price down to the equivalent of less than $5 per month. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.